Lucky you!
Best 36 holes in golf.
You tuned in to Alternate Shots Podcast,
Marnie's Army.
where we talk about golf,
Marquis, Sandy's,
poker,
Bond, James Bond.
horse racing,
I'm all in.
great movies.
Alfred Hitchcock.
We have no script.
And down the stretch they come.
We're glad you joined us.
Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
Whoop, let's start again. So, Billy Regan, we have got a day today. We have none other than Steve Rabideau joining us, overall in charge of 280 acres of great prime real estate and 36 wonderful holes. Welcome, Steve, to the Alternate Shots Podcast.
Well, thanks for having me, guys.
Yes, it may be the longest you'll sit still this entire year.
It very well could be. It's funny, March has been worse than January and February. January and February were abnormally warm.
One of the great features of Winged Foot is that there's always 18 holes open for knuckleheads like me that might want to sneak out there on a 38-degree day.
I remember a couple of years ago after you were here, Steve, telling my friends as I played in December down 14 East and I saw one of your capable crew mowing the front of the green and somebody else mowing the green. I said, who else is doing this?
It takes every day to get the golf course, right? For what we strive for and turn it off for the winter months, right? We don't have much of winter and I get more work done. Me and my staff get more work done in the wintertime than we do in the summertime. I mean, in the summertime, it's cut, spray, water, and, getting ready for events and stuff. In the wintertime is when we get all the stuff done.
I think I'm speaking on behalf of at least everybody in the membership, but I know that the course condition, far back as I can remember, has been supreme. I use that word on purpose.
We know that we're a facility that is a place where everybody wants to bring guests, right? My mindset with my guys is I tell them that we have to be a member guest every day. We're basically preparing for a member guest every day because there's somebody that's bringing a guest that wants to get the Winged Foot experience. And then there's the days that we don't please everybody, right? Because that's the hardest part of my job because we want to put our best foot forward every day. In doing so, there might be a day that we don't have golf carts, we might not have this. But my mindset, since I've been in the business, has always been doing what is right for the majority of the members. I mean, listen, the restoration work was great. We put a lot of things back to what they were, scale and size, right? On the greens, bunkers were moved into place where they were just to modernize them. Like took a Cadillac and made it a Ferrari, in that we had, on our greens that we had that nobody wanted us, or at first they were hesitant on if we could rebuild the greens and get them back to the same contours. I remember that was, something that everybody was concerned about. I was concerned about it because when we started this process, I hadn't rebuilt a green like that, since we've rebuilt 41 greens here. And I remember Neil, it was great on our first green that we did was 3 East. Neil had a camera in the tree and he put cameras in every tree and he sat in the rock behind 3 East green all day for the entire day because that was the first green we started. And I fully get it that when we started the project, there was, apprehension or people were worried of whether or not we could do what we set out to do because really at the time, Gil hadn't done it. He'd rebuilt greens, built greens, but to do what we were going to do and scan the greens with a laser scanner and then strip the sod off and tell everybody we're going to get the contours within a thousandth of a surveying foot and get the sod back and, change the infrastructure, right? Get rid of the soil that was there, do the drainage, do a gravel layer, put mix in there, upgrade these things, but have the outcome be basically what it was before was a huge undertaking. Well, fast forward 100 years, we don't want the greens to hold moisture. So getting the greens back to what they were and getting the drainage and the firmness and the ability to suck the water out and everything, what was it's huge for us in this day and age. So it took 4 phases, right? We did front of the East and then we did the back of the East and we took a year off of the 4-ball championship and then we started the back of the West and the front of the West. And we try to get better as a group every year doing things because at first we did things on the East and we were learning and figuring things out. And our goal each time we did a phase was to get better at things. We worked some of the kinks out on the East before we got to the West. Because when we started the East, we weren't going to even do the West. I remember that vividly,
Right.
that we were going to do the East, and we were never touching the West. But yet after we did 10 holes on the East, and the membership saw that we listen. Not everybody's pleased, right? People still complain, but the greens were as close as we get them back, and they were firmer, and they were consistent. That's what got everybody's attention on trying to do the West. So we tried to get better each phase on doing things.
It's a great result. The greens are in great shape all the time. They're all very playable. The Tillinghast philosophy is still so there, where there's ways to get to the, as Neil would tell you, there's 4 ways to putt this ball to get it down near the hole or whatever. That's part of the greatness of that design, that the greens, like I always say this, are your 15th club. You can use the contours to help your game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's funny when people think, the greens that prior to us rebuilding them, those weren't the green services of 1923, not even close, because what people don't understand, and I show pictures to Greens Committee all the time and my chairman and stuff, when we're doing some of these projects in the winter where we're rebuilding some of the bunker edges and stuff, we do that every year. And we do it every year because some of them just deteriorate, or it's a bunker that's an active bunker where there's a lot of people hitting out of it, right? And there's a lot of sand splash. People would be amazed at how much sand splash affects the green and how much it can raise a green up. I mean, we've had greens front left of 11. I just did this past winter, I think. It was raised up 2 inches. So that's raised up
Oh,
2
yeah.
inches since I did it 4 years ago.
Wow.
Because
So
everybody that goes in there is throwing a spoonful of sand on the green.
exactly. So for people to think that what we had in 2018 prior to us redoing them is exact same green that was done, in not even close.
Yeah.
You've had 100 years of aeration. You've had sand splash going on those greens. You've had breaks that have done something. So yes, they're similar, but that's why we keep going back and trying to do the bunkers, and we pick away at bunkers every year, and we pull the sand splash off the the bunker edge to the green, and sometimes we cut into the green a little bit to get those back into what it was, so we don't get where we were, so we can keep the contours that we had. Because it's amazing what the sand does. That sand splash does a lot. Well, I'll tell you my favorite hole. So maybe that's it. 13 East is my favorite hole on the property.
There's a lot of people who have said that. That's great to know.
I just think it's such a penal hole. I think the green is like 3,900 square feet in total, and you throw the false front in there, and you're probably down to 2,500 square foot green, and God forbid if you miss it. I mean, it's you're lucky to make a double, and you're happy if you make a bogey, and you're ecstatic if you make a par.
I always say it's easier to hit in 1 than 2.
Yeah, I mean it's great. If you would ask me on the West Golf Course, my favorite hole is either going to be 11 or 15, probably 15. That's the issue though. There's so many great holes here, right? And which is so unique in that a lot of places have 36 holes, but their other 18 isn't anything to shake a stick at. Here, I mean, you could argue that it's the favorite. The East is the favorite course of the membership. It's just the green complexes are incredible on it. The fairways are a little bigger on the East. It's a little shorter. But besides that, the routing of it, the holes, the finish on the East is incredible. The par threes are arguably or equally as good as the West.
No doubt.
I mean, it's just a great golf course.
15, 16, 17, 18 are really always a test.
Yeah, you got to play 11 and 12 or so. You can, probably score pretty good on 11 and 12 if you're hitting it okay. And then you get to 13, and that's a coin toss. And 14 is but from 15 in, I mean, it can be brutal if the wind's kicking in your face. It's a great finishing stretch.
Do you have a set amount of hole locations, as they say on TV all the time, for pins on all the greens, or is it?
We don't have them mapped out. We know the quadrants they go in. It's difficult changing holes. For us, it's different than any other golf course I've ever worked on. Anything on our greens is hard to do, right? Mowing them's hard to do, spraying them's hard to do, aerating them's hard to do. Anything rolling's hard to do because of the undulations on them. So when you talk about changing the holes and stuff, you got to be careful changing the holes. So after my first couple of years here, having guys put them in bad spots because we're always getting some of the younger guys on that turf team to change holes. We went to having the guys use a 4-foot level. So these guys use a 4-foot level now, like the USGA guys were doing setup, and we make sure that we're checking the slope on those to make sure that they're not crazy based on the speed of the day. And we try to move them around so that in a perfect world, you'd have 6, 6, and 6. That doesn't always work. People always ask me, well, did you change the slopes? And I always tell them no, but when we enlarge the greens back to their original scale and size, we
Yeah.
gained hole locations on a lot of the edges, which are the harder locations, but we actually gained hole locations. So,
And there are some misconceptions about, I've heard a lot of people say 3 East, the false front is way too severe now, but it's actually the same as it always was. It's just the green is bigger.
listen, you had a bunker there. You had a bunker front right. People forget it. You had a bunker front right. The bunker on the left didn't change. The walk up was always there, right? I mean, so what was the approach walking up when the bunker was there? You take the bunker out and you level it off, and then that becomes green. So I mean,
Right.
it was there. 18 at the front of that green, we expanded it a lot on that green. One of the things in the restoration was the opening to the green, the mouth of that greens, they all got bigger. The greens on the west got bigger by about 25,000 square feet. 15 and 17 got the biggest, right? So 15, I think, was 2,500 square feet, got bigger, and I think 17 was about the same. 10 was the one that didn't get that much bigger at all, but all the other ones were 1,000, 1,500, 2,000 square feet bigger, which was basically in the fronts and the rear and the edges and stuff like that, which is where we gained hole locations. Maybe that helped accentuate some of the false fronts and looking at, but we didn't add any false fronts. They were just there, a little bit here and a little bit there all the time,
Right.
and the green shrink. So yeah, I mean, labor and financial constraints at time over the years have led to green shrinking and people just not paying attention and or turnover of whomever's maintaining the property and stuff. And I mean, we're going to do it now. We're pulling the covers off the greens today, right off the west. But first thing we got to do is go out there and mark the collars. Because if we don't go out and mark the collar at 21 inches, when the guy goes to mow it the first time, he doesn't know where to mow the green to the collar. So you gotta define that, and it takes time. And if guys aren't paying attention, you can lose things like that real easily.
What's the most rewarding thing about your job?
I think just knowing that what we do is on public display every day, that's what definitely motivates me. And I try to get that off to the staff, right? The team, that everything we do is on public display, right? And we want to try to set our best foot forward every day. It's a constant battle, right? With Mother Nature. I mean, she wins all the time, right?
Yep.
Rain, no rain, heat, drought, snow. I mean, humidity.
So Steve, one of the things that we learned from Jay Hill, who's played a few golf courses, he calls this area his neighborhood. You talk about 13 East and 15 West. He says that's his favorite neighborhood. I'd never heard that. If you have you heard that before?
I have not, but I agree. I love 15. I think it's such a good hole, a risk reward hole. I mean, if you put your drive in this proper spot down in the front left of this fairway, you got a good alleyway and opening to that green. If not, you're going to struggle in that hole.
And again, you got that green as a weapon in your favor or against you, depending on where you hit your second shot.
Yeah, it's a great green complex. Well, I think something needs to be done, and I think that's probably a step in the right direction, but that doesn't mean that the PGA Tour is going to enact it, right? Right now, it's just the R&A and the USGA. So if the PGA Tour doesn't adopt it, then you're going to be playing with two different sets of balls week in and week out, or for the majors. But people are hitting the golf ball too far. It should be set for everybody, because the average kids nowadays are hitting the ball 300 plus yards. Is not meant to be hitting 300 yards. So I think it should be between the golf ball and the club. Something needs to be done because you're taking too many great golf courses, you're making them obsolete. And
Yep, you're always going to run out of real estate before you run out of technology.
Yeah, but now everybody's got a TrackMan, and every range has a TrackMan, and golfers are are way more athletic, and so it's a different game, right? But couple that with the fact of, see, that's just one equation of it. The other thing is what we've done in our end of it, and the maintenance of it is that's gone, you know, the conditions have gotten better and firmer and faster and stuff. So you couple that with a golf ball, and everybody always talks about firm and fast, and ball needs to roll, and so what we've done, along with the golf ball and the club heads are so big and the balls are so much, they go so much further. So that in what we've done, the ball rolls for forever now. So you're making these golf courses, you know, classics are now, you know,
Driver wedge.
you can't be played on them, and designers are designing golf courses 75, 8,000 yards, which is crazy. It's crazy. So something needs to be done, I think, on a broader scale.
What's your favorite movie? As long as we're on the topic.
I gotta go Caddyshack.
Oh, so you could aspire to be like try
Charles
some different
Spatula.
techniques on getting rid of that gopher?
Yep. Gotta go Caddyshack. You gotta just start from scratch. You know, I mean, thankfully the winter I started in, you know, December of 11 and full time in January 12. You just you gotta start from scratch. You know, I had to build a team. Thankfully it was a winter that we didn't have a lot of snow, so you know, I remember grabbing a placemat out of the clubhouse that had the holes, you know, the red and the blue on them, and just trying to learn the holes. And you just got to start from scratch. You know, there's so much stuff in the ground and so many things here, and it just, uh, you know, I'd only been at 18 hole facilities before, and so that's a little bit of a nuance, you know, to go from 18 to 36 and bigger staff. So it just, you just got to learn it. And the only way you learn it is by being here. And, you know, when you start, and I always tell my guys when they go to a golf course for the, you know, they take over as superintendent, your first couple years, definitely your first year, everything is reactive, right? Because you don't know what's going to happen, right? Where now I can be proactive on some things, and I've been here and I know what things are. But your first year somewhere, everything, you have to be reactive to what you see is going on and happening. You can't take what I learned at Wheatley or somewhere else. You don't know how a property is gonna handle things. So you just have to be there and just you get thrown something and have to deal with it. You know, it takes a while to learn to manage a property, especially this size. You know, you asked me earlier what I'm proud of. That's definitely one of the things that I enjoy working with all the guys, right? I mean, it's not always fun, but for them, but it's a lot of work, but yet it's satisfying when those guys go on to get their jobs. And you know, we've had 10 or 11 guys get head jobs here in all great places and over the last 11 years, and a feather, I guess, in the cap, or it just makes me proud to see that those guys, but it's also it's good for our program here to recruit people to come too. So
It's good for golfers everywhere because, you know, the better the superintendent, the better the conditions that wherever they end up.
yeah.
That's good for golf all around.
What keeps you here, Steve?
Listen, it's the best 36 holes in golf, right? I mean, it's arguably the top 36 holes in golf. It has a passionate membership for golf. You know, it's a golf club that they, you know, I mean, it's the conditions, right? I'm still want to be here and want to be doing this at this high level. You know, I mean, I'm super excited that we have a US Open to work towards in 2028. So I think those are, I mean, it's Winged Foot, right? I mean, it's the best 36 holes in golf.
I think that sums that up.
Yeah, we often were asked to do comparisons years ago when I was involved in some things. The closest kind of club we can compare to is Westchester, but that's a country club. How do you compare?
I think the only comparison in golf, you got to go to Australia and get to Royal Melbourne. And I don't think there's anything in the States that compares to it. You got to get to the other side of the map and get to Royal Melbourne. It might be the closest that you can come to us. I mean, listen, it's a hard golf course, right? I mean,
Mm.
you know, you play golf here, your handicap should travel well, and you know, it's hard golf here for a lady, a senior, those from the whites or the blues. It's hard golf. I mean, you can't change that.
I think the gold tees is one of the greatest attributes at Winged Foot that's the least utilized. I think if every Winged Foot member hasn't played from the gold tees once, they're missing an opportunity to, because the green complexes are the same, right?
People play too far back, right? And it's no fun, right? And everybody talks about pace of play and this and that. It's just no fun the further back you play, especially if you're not hitting it. You know, there's a formula out there. Whatever you hit whatever club you hit, I think it's 180 yards. And there's some formula that tells you what tee box you should be playing from. And most people play from the wrong tees. Having a chance for a birdie's fun, right? But if you don't have a chance for birdie at all and around the golf, something, you know, you're either playing really bad or maybe you're playing from the wrong tees.
We were talking the other day about Wendahack and the clubhouse. What's different, say, easily different between Winged Foot and Baltusrol is when you're at the end of the ninth hole at that club, you're out in the middle of nowhere. Every time you're at the end of a nine, you're near the clubhouse. And the Wendahack made that clubhouse kind of look like even bigger because of the smaller slates on the top, right? So even Wendahack was fussing with the golfer, right?
Well,
Yeah,
Wendahack was meeting with Tillinghast before they, put a shovel in the ground to pick the best place for the clubhouse. Baltusrol didn't have that luxury. They were stuck with the clubhouse up on the big hill, and a lot of places are stuck with the clubhouse. But Tillinghast said that designing any course begins with locating the clubhouse.
Yeah, no, and it's definitely classic, right? I mean, you've got, 9 in, 9 out, for the most part, or 10 and 8, but for the most part, it's 9 and 9. It's definitely classic, old school, golden age golf course architecture, and throw in one of the best clubhouse designers of his era. I mean, it's just awesome on both fronts. I always think about this. If you gave an architect 280 acres today and you had him design 36 holes on 280 acres, 280 acres is not a big property for 2 golf courses. What we have here, the 2 masterpieces we have here on 280 acres, it's phenomenal, right? To think about. And, most of these guys are doing, 18 holes on 200 acres, 200 plus acres. So, to give a guy, a modern day guy, and tell him you want 2 golf courses. So I think that modern guys would struggle on it.
Got a lot of credit to that white mule.
Yeah, 13 West.
This has been fabulous, Steve. Thank you so much for your time. Your insights are so different than the people we speak with.
The 2 courses you give us to play year round are, like I say, if you're complaining about that, there's something else wrong in your life. So I thank you for that myself, and I'm sure the membership agrees.
Well, thank you guys, and it was a pleasure, and I'm sure we'll see you around here soon. Well, that's what we strive for. I mean, we know that we're a facility that is preparing for a member guest every day, because there's somebody that's bringing a guest that wants to get the Winged Foot experience. I mean, it's Winged Foot, right? I mean, it's the best 36 holes in golf.
I think that sums that up.
Why are you laughing?
Well, at least we have the laugh to add at the end.
Thanks for joining us
Casper,
today.
Billy
We
Harmon,
really appreciate your
Double
feedback.
Indemnity,
And please
Arky,
subscribe to the
2
show
Outer,
and hit
Claude
the bell
Harmon,
icon so you get notified
Movie Classics,
new episodes.
Mark Gable,
Hit them
Odd
hard
Job,
and hit them off.
Best 36 Holes.